Hello, 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 and happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Let's Get Plugged by the HR Plug. And I am LaShawn Davis. I am your host and the owner, founder, CEO of the HR Plug. And what we do is we help employees and leaders find ways to thrive at work. We help you understand how to navigate through those challenging HR issues and understand the tools and resources available to help you experience a workplace culture that's conducive to living a healthy life. And tonight we will be talking about the FMLA Family Medical Leave Act, how to use it for your mental health, and also the importance of resting and that real professionals do rest and how it's so necessary in order to achieve truly what you're trying to achieve professionally for yourself, and your career. Tonight's guest is an amazing leader in the HR world, and I'm excited to have Miss Jasmin Forts with us. Before we bring her out, though, I'm going to share with you a few announcements that's happening with the HR Plug, and then I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll invite her on. So as you guys know, still coming up, we have the UNPLUG conference. It is in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a 3-day hybrid event. Our guest tonight is actually going to be a speaker here at the event, sharing a little bit of details more about what we'll be talking about tonight as it relates to resting and the importance of it. But we have an amazing lineup. Some of our guests that are speaking you've met before. Some of them you'll meet on other episodes as we go through the rest of this month before the event on March the 30th through April the 1st. So if you are in Atlanta and you're an HR professional, you need to get here. If you are an HR leader and you lead an HR team, you need to get your team here. We need to understand the state of the HR industry right now and how so many professionals are simply tired. For the past few years, with tackling and battling what's been happening in the workforce industry from the Great Resignation, from the pandemic, through social injustices, and all the things where everybody has been relying solely on HR for support. Now it's time to take care of them, take care of the HR professionals who are so in charge of taking care of everybody else every day. This is a way to say thank you for such a thankless job. It's a way to recognize the need for HR professionals to unplug and really be able to disconnect and conjoin with a community of other HR professionals as we discuss how to tackle what the future of work looks like. And so if this is something that you believe you need, or that you think will be beneficial to your career development because you're feeling burnt out, because you're feeling like you're in an ever cycle ending of hiring and firing and recruiting and the churn, or because you're doing something you've never done before in your organization, from working hybrid or working remote, and you're just trying to figure out ways to stay engaged, or you're looking for ways to maintain the trust and the direct relationship with your employees in your organization, this is a conference that you're going to want to be at. There isn't anything else like it. Most HR conferences, as you all know, tend to equip HR professionals with the things that they need to take back to the business and make the business better. This is an opportunity for you to equip yourself, refuel yourself with what you need to be a better professional so that you can in turn be who you need to be for the business, because there's no way that you can pour from an empty cup. So come and get refueled at the UNPLUG conference, March 30th through April the 1st. And if you want to understand more about this event, you can visit www.unplugconference.com. I also want to thank our listeners. If you're joining us via stream on a podcast app or service, we appreciate you listening in. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this podcast if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. It's a way to show appreciation that you're liking this content, that it's valuable for you, and it keeps you informed and aware of whenever we post new things for that could be beneficial for your HR walk in the workplace. So be sure you stay connected and tune in. You are also able to connect with me online at www.thehrplug.com. if you like to talk about your career journey and you want to understand what should you be doing, are you doing the right thing? If you're an HR professional and you just need some guidance on how to get where I want to be in HR, or if you're an HR newbie and you just want some support in that area, make sure you book a free consultation with me and let's talk about where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do, and what you're trying to accomplish. At the top there, you'll see we are all over social media under the name at the HR Plug. So be sure to find us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook, and connect with us that way as well. And we're also on TikTok, where we do a lot of videos about interviewing and how to answer certain interview questions and get guidance when you're dealing with looking for a job or completing a resume. So that's all that there is about us. So now I'm excited to share with you who is with us tonight. So I'm going to be bringing out Jasmin Forts, and I want to share how I even found Jasmin I have no idea, but I remember seeing a statement she made or a video she did, and it was all centered about how real professionals rest. And that statement really resonated with me because when we are in the workplace, we tend to put the needs and the demands of the business sometimes above our own needs, sometimes above our own health and above our own well-being, especially if you're a leader and you're tasked or charged with building or developing other people, or if you're a business leader and you're stressing out about how to meet goals or how to make profit or how to do certain things. We often neglect ourselves for the sake of the business. And then I saw somewhere else that I read, that you shouldn't kill yourself for these companies, because if you do, the next day they'll just simply recruit and fill your position and keep on moving. But there are people like your family who you're irreplaceable to. So it's important to think about that dynamic and pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mindset, pay attention to your physical and mental health when you're doing anything that's profiting or supporting anybody else, because you have to make sure that you are well rested, you're establishing boundaries, and you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. That's what Jasmin's organization, Sister Siesta, is all about. And I'm excited to have her a part of this show. So I'm going to bring her out here. Hi, Jasmin. How are you?
I'm doing great, LaShawn. How are you doing?
I am well. I am excited about this episode because it's something that we don't talk about much, the need to rest. And that is what your branding is all about, which I fell in love with, resting.
Thank you. Yes.
So thank you for being here. We are honored that you would take a moment of your time and just pour some knowledge and wisdom into our watchers and our audience about just resting and how to take advantage of the best ways that you can achieve and attain rest in the workplace. So, Jasmin, tell us a little bit about how you got into being considered the rest queen, which is what I consider you to be. Because every time I see you, I'm like, oh, let me make sure I'm resting. Let me make sure I'm taking care of myself. That's what you stand for me. So what got you in that space and how did we get here?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's funny because I've been called the rest queen. I've been called the rest whisperer. So I just appreciate that when people see my name or come across anything I'm doing, they immediately think to rest. Okay, that's what I want. So that's awesome. But honestly, what happened was my own life, was in disarray, and it was the diagnosis of high functioning anxiety and depression that really called out some of the things I was doing in my own life and causing detriment and other obstacles for me professionally. And here I was, calling myself a professional. I was buttoned up, and, when you looked at me, it all made sense, right? It looked all together, but I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed, and it came to a point, I remember exactly when it happened. I was dealing with a personal situation with my extended family, and I had to go into a meeting, like a boardroom, to present something for talent acquisition. And I could not move out of my office. Like, I just started crying, and I was frozen. And, my husband, he came and got me, and I had going to the doctor anyways because I believe in using all of my benefits.
Right.
And
And we're going to talk
I
about
have
that
been,
today.
yes, I believe in using all of them. I pay for them, I use them, right? So my doctor, Dr. O, she had probably had seen me at least 3 times a month for the previous 6 months, just trying to help me figure out what was going on. When I showed up that appointment, I had shingles and it was induced by stress. And there was a myriad of other things that was going on. And um, I was embarrassed, first of all, that I was going through such an ordeal, that stress had shown up on my body. And then I was embarrassed that I wasn't taking care of myself. So
Wow.
that's what started this whole journey for me, and also encouraging others, because being at such a low point and then understanding that I wasn't alone was important for
Mhm.
me to become the person that I needed in this moment for other people. So we can take away the stigma, understand our benefits, and also move to a place of wellness if we call ourselves professionals. And so that's what
Wow.
started it.
Wow. And that last part you said, if we call ourselves professionals, it just
Yes,
stung me a little bit because people often equate professional as success in winning in business and making a lot of money, being profitable. But truly, success is just being able to enjoy the fruit of
exactly.
your labor.
That's
And
right.
wow, unfortunately, your health became the factor that led
Yeah,
to
it
this.
was
And
compromised.
wow, 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 wow. And when you think about even why we're doing Unplug, like, it's so often overlooked. Like, we don't think about the toll, some of the workload that we carry as a burden, the effect that it has on our body, our physical and mental
Hmm.
well-being. So, what did you
Exactly.
do? Let's talk about what you did. So now you recognize you have these health issues because of work. So what did you do
Hmm.
next?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that, I mean, because I'm in HR, right, I knew that I was going to have to lean into the FMLA process.
Right.
But the first thing was admitting that I needed to take the break. And it sounds kind of elementary or redundant, right? Just admitting you have a problem. But I promise you, that has been the biggest hurdle, especially for the audience that I support. So specifically, I do support Black women just because of history, and also the position that we have in our community. A lot of our households are led by single mothers. Mine isn't, but I do understand that is a commonality for a lot of my sisters. And so
Right.
when you put that in the mix, and then you're showing up to workplaces where you're either a leader, or even if you're not, you're just showing up and you're trying to prove, because it seems like we always are trying to prove ourselves, right?
Yes, yes,
That becomes an additional tax. And I don't want to get into like race and all that, the social injustices that you were saying, that we were
yes.
all viewing, but I mean, in our communities, we know they exist.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, you are
So,
so right. You are so right because I was having a conversation with a colleague, and we were just talking about how privilege also spills over into the workplace, where we have to work twice as hard as Black women in the workplace to earn respect, whereas some people just earn it based on what they look like. And that's exhaustion. That energy you have to put into that is draining, but it's become the norm for us that it's often overlooked the effects that it could have on our bodies.
yes, and that indeed was something that I had dealt with, but I mean, daily it's a challenge.
Hmm.
But honestly, I've just taken that off for me only through therapy and a lot of other exercises, because honestly, it will never go away for us, for individuals. I think,
Hmm.
when you're socialized a certain way, when representation has been even engineered a certain way, it
Yeah.
can be hard to unlearn some of the images and how you even show up in a place, right? You feel like you have to go above and beyond when others may just do the bare minimum. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
honestly, for me, I've almost taken off that burden. I really have. And I have been more strategic in understanding the opportunities that align with me. And if certain teams and certain organizations cannot readily recognize that, I honestly say a prayer and say thank you, because imagine being in the room with them 30, 60, 90 days later, and I'm stressed out again trying to prove myself. Hell no, I'm not doing
Right.
that anymore,
Right.
So a lot of times, what is it? Rejection is for your protection.
Yes.
Go ahead and
Yes.
lean into that, because I believe that all the time.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean, listen, if you guys don't know, Jasmine is serious about this. This is not a hobby. This is a
Oh
business
no.
for her. And she will, and that's what I love about her. She will quickly say, "I've worked my 8 hours for the day. I understand that there are additional things that need to be done here, but I'm done. I'll see you
Yeah,
tomorrow."
that is
Like
truly me.
that is her. And meanwhile, I'm just like, why don't I do that? And then I'm like, now I'm gonna start doing that. But it took me to get connected to her to recognize that. And that's why I wanted her to come on this show, because a lot of us don't recognize that because of just who we are as women. Sometimes we're naturally
Yeah,
nurturers. So we want to make
yeah,
sure everything and everybody is taken care of, because we do it as mothers, we do it as,
exactly.
cultivators. We want to make sure everybody else is taken care of. So this movement that I'm on is about taking care of you, because you can't be anything for anyone else unless you take care of yourself. And so,
That's right.
amazing story, amazing journey, Jasmine. What I've
Yeah,
learned from you is you got to a breaking point where it took an effective toll on your physical health, for you
yeah.
now to take a position, never again, not
Yeah.
anymore.
And never again. Yes. And the interesting thing about it, though, is I was doing all of those things that you were just saying. Like, my brand professionally, like in the workplace, is if you don't catch Jasmine by 4:30, just wait till tomorrow, right? Like, just if you don't catch Jasmine between these hours, because I literally cannot afford to
Yes.
be, split in half between my family and work and all the other things that I enjoy, right? But I
Yes.
still got to a place that was unhealthy. And I had to do a lot of self-assessing to understand how I got there. And it was understanding rest deficits, how to, like you were saying, refill a cup, but not just in a sense of like the church call out, right? Like, you can't like how like, yes, yes, yes. We all
Yes.
say, yeah, you can't get from an empty cup. Like, you call
Uh-uh.
it out in church and all these things. But what does that truly mean?
Me. What does it look like, right?
What does it look like? And what do rest deficits look like? And then, going further into FMLA and, using an IOP and understanding disabilities, what does that really look like outside of the cute memes and the call outs that we do? Real life. How do I
Right.
support myself and others? So if I listen, you'll get there probably again. I'm not saying it will never happen again, right? But if you get there, you have the toolkit to recognize before it gets so low that you have shingles or you have a stroke, or worse, you're not here with us anymore. And you need to be here, and your family needs you too. So yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Because what I try, and if you don't pick up anything else from this podcast today, understand that sacrificing yourself for the benefit of someone else isn't the equation to make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the equation for
Mm-hmm.
success. It's not going to make you're still not going to get approached about a raise. You're still not going to, no one's going to walk up to you and say, "You're doing such a great job. We're going to give you a 20% raise." Like, you might get a sentence on your performance evaluation at the end of the year and your 2% increase. Like,
There you
stop,
go.
we got to stop draining ourselves for image or to be respected at an organization or even a society that isn't designed to respect us, right?
Amen.
So put yourself first. If anything,
That's
do
right.
not sacrifice your health and well-being for anyone else's
That's right.
success. So let's talk about FMLA, because you mentioned it a little bit. So there's a lot of misconceptions about FMLA, right? The Family Medical Leave Act. So let's just start from the basics. What exactly is FMLA, and who can take a part of that?
Yeah. So FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, was brought to us in 1996, and it was in an attempt for American society. I believe it was President Clinton at the time, to strengthen, the workforce and support families. And it was giving employees that had been with an organization for at least a year, working at least 1,250 hours, for an organization of 50 employees or more within a 75-mile radius. It's like all these things. Um, and did I say a year? Yep, I said all the things. Okay. When they need to protect their job while they're either taking care of a family member, being a caregiver um, for a loved one, while being pregnant, adopting a child. And also, if you're unable to perform your job because of a serious medical condition. And so those are the biggest pots of when you qualify for FMLA, and really just a really quick snippet overview of how FMLA came um, to introduction to the US.
Awesome. So there are some criteria, right, based on what you said.
Yes.
And if I heard you correctly, you're saying you have to work for the organization for at least a year, at least 1,250 hours, and have 50 or more employees. And these criteria isn't state-based, it's federal. So this is anywhere in the United States. If you are in a position that satisfy those requirements, then you would be FMLA eligible, or FML eligible, I should say. So, I know a lot of people think about it in the sense of, oh, if I'm going to be out because I'm hospitalized, or if I'm going to be out because I'm having the birth of a child. But you said adoption, and that's nothing, that I would think people might know you could use it for. And I also know that you mentioned mental health. And that might be something also people may not know you can use it for. So let's talk about how that works. Like, if I'm not having a surgery or a baby, am I really able to use FMLA for a mental health? Is that considered a serious health condition?
Absolutely. And you know what? It makes me so sad that we even have to answer this question, right? Because how did we get to a point where the brain is not even considered, and when we talk about impairment, right? Like, so if I break my leg, you automatically know that I need assistance, right? If something happens where my heart is having an impairment, you automatically know I need help. But if something happens mentally, we are just like, it's okay, go to sleep, wake up, come back to work. And that is very sad to me, that the brain, the most important central organ to us, is not getting the respect it needs in terms of even how you do work, even how you show up in the world. The brain is the central nervous system for us, right? Like, this is central to almost everything, the brain and the heart. And so yes, you can. So when we're talking about taking FMLA for mental health, that's that one sentence that I said, where if you cannot perform your work duties, right, because of a serious health impairment. So if your mental health is impairing you where you can't perform your job, right? And when I'm saying you're so anxious that you can't even type, right? You're shaking. You can't even, you're in your office, or you're showing up and you're crying, or you can't even get out of the car because you've been so mentally bombarded and overwhelmed. What if you can't even speak, right? You're stuttering because you're so stressed out, or you have lockjaw. That is mental. That is an impairment. You cannot perform. You cannot show up and do your training. You cannot show up and be the best for your colleague, for either the subordinates or the leaders. And so the fact that the humanity is taken out of the experience for me and for others is really leaving me sad, that toxic workplaces are pushing forward and not giving the brain and mental health the respect it needs to be well. And to categorize it as a disability if it's that, so you can get the help and then perform at a place where you want to perform.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that's really deep, because last week we were talking about toxic workplaces and the stress it causes, the anxiety it causes, the depression it causes, and all of the effects of that. And as I think about that, yes, the United States, which is a whole topic for another day, has no laws that protect workplace bullying. Nothing. Other countries do, even Canada. But In the
Right.
United States, we don't. However, you can protect yourself by taking FMLA if your
Yeah.
workplace is positioning you to have that impairment because of how you're being treated. Even if it's not caused by your workplace, even if it's something external that's causing you this impairment, you're still able to
Mm-hmm.
take FMLA. But I want you to recognize that it can also be effects from the work, whatever it is. If it's for you,
Right.
consider taking it. And so
Exactly.
what's the process, Jasmine? Like if I'm like, yeah, this is me. I need this. Like how do I get this? What do I do?
Absolutely. So the first thing I always recommend is to make sure that you have your short-term disability insurance, because it doesn't make sense to be out on leave and be stressed out about money, finances, and all of that, right? We don't want to put one stressor into another bucket for another bucket to stress us out. So that's the first thing. Make sure in your benefits that you have your short-term disability. The next thing is to honestly make sure that you've had a really transparent and collaborative relationship with your PCP, your primary care physician, or your medical health practitioner, because they're going to be your biggest advocate when you're filling out the paperwork to be on FMLA, um, whether it's intermittent or whether it's the full on duration of the 12 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever they prescribe for you. That's important. And during that process, you'll do like an intake. They'll be going over your medical records with you. And then they will be assessing if this is an impairment. And if it is, what is the best approach? Some folks go on intermittent leave where maybe for the next 6 weeks, you're only working 2 days out of the week. And then someone like myself, it was at a very, it was manifesting on my body at this point. I was out for the whole 12 weeks. And I was in an IOP, which is an intensive outpatient therapy program, where I was doing, the psychotherapy, I was doing group talk therapy, I was doing individual therapy. They assessed me for medicine. It was a very deep dive into what I needed. And I was able to do research on just the things that were putting me in the place that got me here. And so I think it's important that people are, again, being honest that they have this problem and that they've been keeping their appointments, so it's not a surprise, right? Because it becomes an integrity thing for the medical doctor, the mental health practitioner, because they're not just going to sign the paperwork because you show up and say, "Oh my gosh, I've been crying in the car. I need to be on FMLA." A lot of people think that that's going to happen, right? And now they're upset with their employer or they're upset with HR. And honestly, it was your responsibility to take care of you first. And so I
Yes.
do say, you know, if you're starting a certain way, own it. Like, no, this is what's happening. Start getting those appointments together. Assess it. Be collaborative, be transparent, be open with those medical professionals. And probably I've seen more oftentimes than not, they are recommending it to you to take a break. Like, oh, hold on. I don't want to see you on an EKG machine next, or I don't the ambulance picking you up from your office. Let's take a break. Yeah, that process itself, depending on the organization, it will basically go, there's a federal worksheet that will need to be filled out by your healthcare practitioner. And then it is submitted to your organization. It's confidential. And if it isn't, that's an issue, because I've had situations where people were like, now my whole office knows, and that's a whole other conversation. And you probably need to leave if HR can't be confidential. But it goes to your benefits office, and a lot of times they will have an FMLA rep. So they have it just like you have an employee relations person. So a lot of organizations have an FMLA person. So you're only communicating with that person about what's going on. You don't even have to share anything that you don't want to share. It's been submitted by the healthcare professional. They a lot of times even they only put what's necessary.
Yep.
When I went on FMLA twice for mental health, and all they said was, Jasmin, I think it was like, please excuse Jasmin from this date to this date for a medical emergency or something. They didn't even put anything.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
So,
I mean, you said a lot of good stuff. Let me just make sure that
sorry.
no, I just want to go back so to make sure that we don't miss
Okay.
anything. So
Yeah,
first is, based on what you just said, it's nobody's business,
that's
the
right.
specific diagnosis or anything like that.
That's right.
And, you don't have to feel compelled to tell your leader what you've been diagnosed with or what you're struggling with or why. You can simply say, I'm going to be out of the office on medical leave. That is it.
That's right.
Your doctor's office will complete certain paperwork and then they will give it either to you to give to your company, or sometimes they send it directly to the company. If you work
That's
for
right.
a larger company, it could be a third party organization that even manages this process. So you may have heard of Sedgwick or Hartford or, organizations like that, ADP, like they all sometimes manage this for the company just for that added layer of security for you to understand
Yeah.
that your company's not going to know why. So
Yes.
don't feel
Yes.
compelled to have to share
Yes. Thank
why.
you for sharing that. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. And the other important thing you said is in benefit enrollment, short term disability, because FMLA protects your job. It gives you an opportunity to step away to get professional medical assistance for whatever you're enduring or going through without worrying about losing your job. What it doesn't automatically do is pay you for the time that you're losing to take care of yourself. And so, to Jasmine's point,
Right.
financing isn't something you want to be stressed about. Now, how I'm going to pay my bills because I can't be, you don't want to stress about that.
Right.
So look into short-term disability offered by your benefits. And sometimes you can ascertain that outside of your company as well.
Mhm.
So definitely look into that. And some companies also offer short-term disability as a benefit where you can get it a percentage of your salary still if you tend to go out on short-term disability. And then they offer long-term disability as well. And there is a difference. Generally, long-term disability is if you're out more than 6 months. Short-term disability is up to the 12 weeks, which is generally what FMLA will protect your job, for. So again, do your research and become truly understanding of what your company offers as a benefit, what you might need to secure as a supplemental benefit coverage, and and maintaining that relationship with your doctor is another thing that she mentioned, right? You want to let them know honestly how you're feeling so that they can guide you. Hey, this is too much. Let's take a break. I'm going to do some FMLA paperwork for you or what have you. So, all of that is important, Jasmine. So I appreciate you for touching on each and every one of those things. You mentioned continuous FMLA and then you mentioned intermittent FMLA. What is the difference between the two? I know you said one that you can do 2 days a week and one is continuous. Do I select that, or is that something that I work through with my business? How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's something, it's almost like a prescription, right? So, like, when you're really sick, you don't tell the doctor, like, I want to take 800 milligrams of XYZ, right? The doctor tells you, oh, based off of this assessment and how ill you are, this is what I'm prescribing. In the FMLA process, it's pretty much the same way. They're going to, from what they assess and what you all talk about, they're going to, from their professional advice and experience, say what they think would be the best approach to allow you to get well. So if it is, like I said, in my situation, it was like, hey, you need to be out continuously for the 12 weeks. And then, after that, if you're still in a space, then we need to look at probably ADA or, disability, having this marked as a disability for you. If you are just stressed for a moment, maybe it's like my husband, he's a financial professional and they have busy seasons, right? So maybe during busy season when it's the highest stress level for you, maybe you still need to perform or you still can perform based off of your assessment and talking with the doctor. And you guys have the discussion. Again, it's collaborative. I believe healthcare is collaborative. You discuss the best options. So maybe it is for maybe 6 weeks, you only need to be on FMLA where you're working a edited schedule. Maybe it's an abridged schedule where you're not working Monday through Friday, the 9 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever it is. Maybe it's just Monday, Tuesday, and maybe Friday, and you only work 6 hours or something. Or
Yes.
maybe it's just Monday and Friday, and you're working all 8 hours, but the middle of the week you're doing other work. You're doing therapy, you're resting, you're doing other things. So it's based off of the conversations, the collaborative efforts of you, the mental health practitioner or your PCP or whoever you went to, to get the support within the FMLA process.
Awesome. And you also mentioned earlier you are able to take advantage of the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, for a loved one. So even if it's
Yes.
not you that's experiencing the impairment, if it's your wife or husband
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
children, right,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
could still request for their doctor to have me out so I am able to take care of them. Maybe they can't drive to their appointments or what have
Exactly.
you. Is that pretty much
Exactly.
valid?
Absolutely, it
Okay.
is. As a caregiver, once
Yep.
you're labeled the caregiver for the person who is in, I hate to say turmoil, but is needing the assistance, that is something that they need to get well, right? So it
Yes.
covers you as well, just like with an adoption of a child. That can be mentally straining. That I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's bringing something, it's bringing someone new into your home, just like when you have a baby. Even if you didn't birth the baby yourself, this is a new life event where you need the additional support to be away from the responsibilities of work. So
Right.
yes, it is covered in that sense as well.
Awesome. Because let me just tell you how this normally plays out. I
Uh,
have a child that is ill and they have a condition. And so I'm constantly having to call out of work so that I can
yeah,
take them to their appointments. Or I'm late to work because they're on this
yeah,
medication
yeah,
that makes mornings rough for me or something to
yeah,
that effect. Then you need
yeah.
to see if you're eligible for FMLA.
That's right. And you are. See, I think again, it goes back to my first thing, just admitting there's a problem. A lot of folks think they can do it. A lot of folks put themselves as optional. They put their vessel, their body as optional when it should be priority because it's the one thing you need to get through life, your body. And instead of treating yourself as optional, you have to understand that first there's a problem. I need support here. How can I get the support? And until you ask that question, you don't know. And then also, if you can't ask that question or you're met with hostility or some toxicity, and I know you've had this conversation in previous previous episodes, but then it's probably time for a change. But until you make that change, know that you have the right. You do have the right
Yes.
to be out, to help your child, to help your spouse, to help even your grandma. Shoot,
Yes.
like that's something that may
Yes.
come up for me soon. And if I need to step away, that's what I'll do because that is what is important to me. And they aren't optional. They aren't
Right.
optional. They're a priority. And so I keep that in mind for myself whenever I start questioning my ability or questioning, my anxiety. I have to get in my toolbox, my therapy toolbox, and ask myself in this moment, are my feelings real and why am I feeling this way? And
Yes.
honestly, I have to validate them and then get myself the help that I need in that moment. So yes.
Awesome. So, generally, you guys know we do these podcast episodes live. This one, as you know, is pre recorded, but I mentioned last week on our podcast that this would be our topic. And so I had somebody reach out to me with a
Okay.
scenario that they're facing that I wanted to share. And if you, after watching this, you do have questions or you'd like more elaboration on your unique individual circumstance, definitely reach out and let me know and I can connect with Jasmin and we're going to talk about how you can also connect with Jasmin. But this is definitely something that we want you to walk away with fully understanding. And the
Yes.
question that came up or the statement that I kind of want you to touch on, Jasmin, is, you know, um, the viewer was saying that they are currently on intermittent FMLA and they're supposed to take 2 days off a week. The problem is that they are severely understaffed at their organization, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're unable to take their 2 days off because not because the organization is telling them that they can't, but they feel guilty for doing so
Right.
because they keep stressing, well, we don't have anybody, so da 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 da. Um,
Um,
how would you support this person, or what could you say that maybe would help them understand the importance of adhering to that prescriptive, instruction that was given by their doctor without
yeah.
having to feel the guilt of leaving the team in a
Yeah.
bind?
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a great question. Oh my goodness, because how do you turn off your empathy? It sounds like this person is empathetic, right? They're thinking about their team first before they're thinking of themselves. And I get it because that was me. But I promise you, when I got rock bottom, stopped feeling that way. I'm always empathetic, but I make myself a priority for this very reason. You can't be the gap for the talent deficiency that your organization is having. You are hired to do your job, right?
Yes.
Your job is to do XYZ, right? Of course, you can flash and do a lot of like amazing things from time to time, which is great. However, you can't be four people if they're missing four people on the team. You can't do that. I would say, I would ask them, okay, we got to this point. How is that working for you? It isn't. That's why you are on FMLA. And this is supposed to work for you. So if you don't do this, I promise you'll be out continuously for 12 weeks and they'll have to figure it out. So
Wow.
either you do the 2 days a week for whatever the allotted time is, or you hit rock bottom. You become so unwell to yourself, your family, and even your profession that now you are MIA 100%. So it's totally up to you to either prioritize yourself and still be empathetic to what they have going on, or allow their lack of empathy to drive how you're going
Yes.
to move about in your life. That's what I would
Oh,
say.
that's deep, because if your employer cares truly about your health and well-being, which they should, then they're not going to even allow you to disregard the instructions that have been prescribed based on your health. That's so true.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And I know it's tough because it's individual, right? Like you and I
Yeah.
both know as HR professionals, like there's a organizational culture that we preach, right? But then, there's subcultures in every
Yes.
team, every department, and then that's where unwellness comes, right? The misalignment. And it's like, ooh, like up here, they're saying take the leave, but my line manager is really on my neck.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when a lot of times the documentation, a lot of times really just placing yourself first and knowing the priority on your life is what
Yeah.
matters. They'll be okay. I promise they'll be okay,
They
especially if you
will.
have the documentation. Okay, they'll be okay.
Right. Because you're probably stressing yourself out even more, worrying about
A
that
hundred
you're not supposed to
percent.
be working. And then,
100%.
and when you were talking, I wrote down this note because you said it. Remember your why. Why are you even on FMLA to begin with? And let that be your driving motivator to remind
Yes,
you of why you want to take the 2 days off, because
that's right.
you can be right back to where you were that resulted in you needing this coverage, or worse, out
Worse.
continuously.
Yes.
So that was a good point. And then another thing you said that I want to highlight is, it's not your responsibility. Let them do their job. Like they'll figure it out. They're
They
going
will.
to figure it. Do you really think you're the cog holding the whole business together? Like,
Come on and say that, LaShawn,
you
because you know
know,
what? That's the ego. That's us feeling centered, like everything is not centered around you. I
yes,
promise. The
they'll be
universe is
okay.
not centered. They will be okay.
They will. I know, I know you're fabulous in what you do and you're very skilled at it, but
Thank you.
they are a business. They have a
Full business.
contingency plan and they will still function
That's
if you're
right.
not there.
That's
But
right.
they don't feel like they probably need to, because you're enabling their bad behavior. You're enabling them to rely on you when they shouldn't be, because you're doing it. Force
That's
them. Like,
right.
it's like a parent. I'm not doing this for you anymore because you need to learn how to
Yeah,
do it, right?
that's right.
That's the approach we need to take. I'm not doing this for anymore because you need to learn as an organization how to manage your team, how to staff appropriately. Maybe you need contractors until I'm well enough, or whatever. But that's on you to figure out. That's not my problem, and I'm not going to take on that undue burden of figuring this
Yes,
out for you.
that's right. That's right. And it allows the other professionals to be the professionals they say they are, to get more
Yes.
strategic. And if you keep filling in holes where they need, like you were saying, additional headcount, it's not doing even the team any favors,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So I totally agree.
Man, because that's one thing. That's one of my pet peeves is the people, the leaders who rely on the strong workers, or the people who do
Ooh,
very well, instead of taking care of them by, fixing the problem that's resulting in them work. But
oh
that's another
man.
day, right? I know that's another
I was
day.
about to say we could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
Another question that came in, and I was like, people really want to know about this stuff. I just threw it out there. I didn't even know, but
Yeah.
So somebody said that they understand about FMLA and they know that they qualify for it. However, they're afraid that their company is going to be upset with them for taking it or retaliate against them, I think is what they were trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the fact that they have this condition and that's what that they're afraid of when they come back, that they could lose their job for even being gone. Even though it protects their job, they feel like they always find a way to
Yeah,
nitpick
yeah,
or something. So
yeah, yeah.
any guidance that you can provide there?
Yeah, that's true. I've seen the nitpicking, right? So it is job protection, but then maybe they try to terminate you based off of performance, right? So you get back and you still need to ramp up to where you were, and then they say it's a performance issue. Or prior to going on FMLA, you were so ill, mentally ill, that you weren't performing at your best self, and maybe there was a performance management issue, and they've been documenting it. I don't know. Sometimes that has happened, and I've seen it happen where there were grounds for termination. This is the thing: your employer does at least have to place you in a role that is comparable or the same as the role that you were in prior to FMLA. And if they don't want to keep you in the current role, they at least have to find a role for you that is comparable or the same, maybe in another department. Okay. Now, in terms of the condition being one that is continuous, right? Like for me, it is an impairment. It is a psychiatric thing. Um, you probably need to look at ADA. You probably do need to take a look at accommodations, and then you are covered in that sense where you can't be discriminated against because of disability. Again, I do think in our community, having this talk about mental health is so new for us, and there's still a stigma attached. Talking to my grandmother and some folks in my family, they're like, we don't want therapy. That I'll just go to my
Yes.
pastor. I'll just pray
Yes.
about it, or so it's still very, very new, and I get it. So you feel ashamed or embarrassed, like you don't know where to turn. But I don't want you to suffer in silence, because you don't need to. There
Yes.
are laws that are here now because someone else suffered in silence, and you don't have to now. And so having the conversations up front about, okay, I know that after this FMLA, this is something that I'm still going to be struggling with. We need to talk to your HR professionals in your organization about the ADA for you specifically, and then we can mitigate that whole discrimination. We can understand how to better support you, because you probably are fantastic at your job. You had
Yes.
life happen.
Right?
So, life is happening. Life is lifing everywhere right now. Okay.
Yes.
So understanding that there are some things, especially outside of FMLA, to support you continuously. And even after, sorry, I just want to say this,
Sure.
even after, because I've led teams of recruiters, and they'll have like the screenings, and they're like, hey, Jasmin, this person shared that, they have some psychiatric issue, and they don't want it to be an issue for them accepting the offer. And I'm like, well, it's not an issue. I always I have human to human conversations. I'll get on the phone with the candidate and be like, listen, if you don't want to disclose this until after the offer, that is well within your right too. You don't have to disclose any of that accommodation that you need until after accepting the offer. Go through the process based off of your talent and skill. And then once they love you and you get there, it's not that you were lying. It just isn't a part of the qualification process.
Right.
I can do the
Right.
job.
That's it.
I can do the job. That's it. If I'm
Right.
in a wheelchair and that doesn't impair what I'm doing, then all of that doesn't need to be said. So just if I need some additional mental health, if I need a mental wheelchair to get me through
Right.
through the process, then that's what I need to. So I
Wow. That's
I
good.
definitely like to empower people to know that even after the FMLA process, stay in touch with your mental health practitioner, your PCP,
Yes.
whoever helped you advocate to get through that process, because additionally, they'll help you get through that ADA process as well, and
Yes.
really be able to speak to why you need the additional accommodation and support through your disability.
Yeah, wow. That was phenomenally answered. So just to recap for
Thank you.
everybody, for The question about being fearful of taking the FMLA because of feeling like it's going to make your employer upset, or it's going to lead to them finding a way to reason to terminate you subliminally or subtly when you return. And Jasmine's answer was phenomenal. I mean, number one, as she said throughout this whole episode, who cares? Take care of you, right? That's the priority. But, number two, there are laws that prevent you from being discriminated against based on a disability. That it's in the FMLA law act in itself. It calls out retaliation, and most companies even take it a step further and talk about no retaliation policy. So the key is being able to prove that it's retaliation, even if the performance deficiencies launch before you went on your leave. That's evidence that you had a medical condition that could conceivably have contributed to that. So they really need to start you from scratch when you come back. And you can argue that. If your doctor says, yes, this affected your ability to do your job, then they can't hold you to those standards if it's in a close proximity, especially. So definitely talk to your employee relations professional there. And as far as the discrimination piece, yes, even if you don't have FMLA or you don't qualify for it, as Jasmine said, you could seek an accommodation based on the ADA, Americans with Disability Act. That's something that's also federally a federal law, so every state has to adhere to it. You're going to want to go look at it because it specifically lists out a bunch of conditions that could conceivably be covered under it. Things that you probably wouldn't even think was like obesity, for example, is one that is covered under the ADA. So definitely go look at that. And that's not an exhaustive list. Like Jasmine said, talk to your primary care physician and ask, do you believe my condition would qualify me for ADA protection? And we can probably do another episode on ADA another day because there's a lot around that. But for now, research it because, again, your employer is unable to discriminate or retaliate against you based on the fact that you're needing this accommodation to support you being able to do your work. And the way you aligned it to a physical wheelchair and a mental wheelchair, never thought about that, because if you can do the job in a physical wheelchair, because on every job application, it's going to ask you, can you perform the essential functions of this role with or without an accommodation? That is a yes or no question. Yep. And if you can perform the functions of this role, even if you need an accommodation to do it, then your answer is yes. And that's all that's necessary. They shouldn't be asking you in the interview process. They shouldn't be asking you in the recruiting screening, process. Well, what do you need? Like, what's your like? They shouldn't be asking you any of that. So, like Jasmine said, can you do the role, even if your wheelchair is mental? Yeah. Yes or no. And if the answer is yes, then you do that. So that I love that. Jasmine, love that. So yes, I want to talk about, Jasmine, like, what are you doing now? So this is something obviously, clearly, that you're truly passionate about. And I know you've written a book and I know you've done, a lot of things because I'm connected to you. I promise I'm not a stalker. You are just, goals for me to get to a place where I remember that. So can you share with us a little bit about, your community? I know you have this whole community thing behind this resting. Tell us about it.
So I have a monthly support group called a Sister Siesta. Everything I do is called a Sister Siesta, quite honestly, because it started out as my siesta, and a siesta is a break from work, basically. It's very intentional. A lot of other cultures use it, and I think it's genius. So it's for my sisters to remind you all and men, I would say, because my husband definitely takes his breaks now too. But it's a monthly support group here in Atlanta, Georgia, that we meet every last Saturday of the month, and we spend about 3 hours together where we understand the unique needs and our rest deficits, because every person is uniquely designed. So there's 8 different rest deficits that we call out, and I help people to understand. So every time that you're reaching your rest deficit, you have your specific way to heal it and to move forward. And then also we talk about just workplace issues, drama that's going on, and we lean on each other for support. This community has grown, and I'm just so honored that, other women have have just been in a place of vulnerability and feel safe to come here, to share with me and other sisters for the support. We Before COVID, we had an annual retreat that I was looking to continue, but then COVID happened. So we're back doing the monthly sessions. Before they were virtual, and then I was pregnant, but now we're we're back 100%, and I'm so excited. We go through a workbook that I have. We do some yoga because I am a yogi. I'm a certified 200 YTT, and I do a lot of just healing things for us to understand. It's just a lot of really good conversations, toolkit to walk away with. So there's practical resources and advice, not just a bunch of pouring out and you leave, which is helpful. That's helpful too. But I want you to have the tools, practical tools to support yourself when you're not able to be in the support group. Yeah.
Wow, love it. Love, love, love it. And I'm going to
Thank you.
show your website. So,
Oh,
this is
yay.
how people, I believe, can connect with you. So, let me
Yes.
show this really quick. So, you guys, this is her website. It is www.asisters, SISTERS, siesta, siesta.com. And if you go to here, she's even offering you a free download of a daily clarity workshop so that you can be the well-rested woman. I just absolutely love it. And look, you guys, when you go on her website, doesn't it just feel calm? For those of you listening, you have to check out this website. It's very clean. It's very, crisp, and it starts with real professionals rest. And that is everything I love about what this community stands for. So you guys make sure you go and connect with Jasmin and go check out her website because it is phenomenal. And she also offers some services as well that I'm going to get her to share quickly with us about, because I saw one and I want her to talk about it a little bit. So Jasmin, what can people expect from the community? I know we have the sister siesta, but what else or other services might you offer that could be helpful
Yeah.
for folks?
Absolutely. So outside of the support group that I offer, I do offer a resume co-creation where we spend 90 minutes together crafting a resume that makes sense and aligned with your skill set, but also understand the roles that would fit. So we can pillar opportunities in your resume based off of your intrinsic value and what you're looking to do, because a lot of times the stress is coming because there may be a misfit or a misalignment in the roles and opportunities that you're putting yourself in front of. So we spend the 90 minutes together. And I did this because initially, I was writing resumes. I had been writing resumes for about 5 years, and I would get all the information from the clients and then write it up real pretty and send it back to them, which was fine. But there was still a piece missing that I wanted to put myself into it because I didn't want to just band-aid the resume process. I wanted to make sure that we were having a conversation through each. Like, why did you choose this opportunity? Are you correctly communicating, your skill set? And then additionally, what is your strategy? Are you looking at roles that really make sense, for this resume? And if not, what does that mean? So it is a co-creation, and you walk away from that 90 minutes with a resume that you can use. And of course, if you have questions through that process, we go over them. So that's one. The second is a siesta session where we do a deep dive into your rest deficits, go over the 8 components of what it means to be well rested. Um, it's first of all, let me get to the 8 components are spiritual, physical, mental, creative, sensory, um, cultural. Oh my gosh, what are the other 2? I talk about this all the time. I can't remember the other 2, but we go over all of that. Plus, we go over some past situations that may have identified some very stressful situations for you in workplaces, so we can identify your values intrinsically and what marries to an employer and the type of organizations you should look at going forward. So really, it's career coaching with an intentional piece in there to not just land a job, but like, let's really understand your resting and what you need. And maybe you need to take FMLA. Maybe you need to be part-time right now and not full-time. Maybe there's something else. So we work through all of the resources and all of the whole, we work whole understanding of what your career is and what you'd like it to be. And we spend that time together to make a strategy that makes sense, talk through FMLA and other resources that are needed. So you have a really good siesta session. And I love those things too. And then of course I have like LinkedIn things and all that, but those three are the biggest services that people call on me for. So
I love it, because if you want your resume done in a way that's going to be a value add for you, not just to have it, but to make it be meaningful, be a part of that process, definitely you want to consider booking that service, because you want to know the kind of jobs that your resume is tailored for. And if someone's writing your resume and it's not being tailored for specifically anything, then that's another reason why you don't need to roll with that, because your resume should be tailored specifically for certain types of jobs. And I love the fact that someone who's passionate about rest will make sure that I'm not going to get burnt out in the job that I'm going into, if my goal is now to kind of autopilot, right, through the rest of my career because I'm midlife or whatever. So I love the alignment and the partnership and the collaboration with that service. So Jasmin, thank you so much for being here. This was such a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And be sure to connect with Jasmin. And if you're coming to the UNPLUG conference, you will be able to meet Jasmin in person, because she will be there. And if not, make sure you go to the website so that you can connect with her there. And if this definitely was an episode that you enjoyed, make sure you also subscribe to this channel, because we would love to hear your feedback. And also, if you have any questions for Jasmin about FMLA, Sister Siesta, the community, the resume co-creation collaboration, you can always email us at the HR Plug at info@the-HR-plug if you're having difficulty connecting with her, and we can get you connected, or reach out to her directly from her website. She does have a contact link, and then you can fill out a form, and she'll be able to be back in touch with you that way. So Jasmin, I'm going to send you backstage while I close out the show. But again, thank you for being here so much.
Yes, thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody, we thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this show. Hope you have a full understanding of your rights and your responsibility under the Federal Medical Leave Act, how you qualify for it, if you qualify for it, other options such as the ADA or requesting a reasonable accommodation that could be available if you don't qualify for FMLA. But ultimately, the goal is, don't burn yourself out for anybody else. Don't ignore the importance of taking care of you. There are resources out there, such as FMLA, such as ADA, such as a personal leave, a lot of things out there that you should explore. And we didn't even touch on it today, but there's also EAP, Employee Assistance Program, that could even get you connected up to a therapist or a doctor or a professional to help you through any type of mental health challenges that you might be experiencing. Really hope that you enjoyed tuning in today. Again, please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow the HR Plug. We're all over social media on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. Come connect with us. And until next Wednesday on the Let's Get podcast, be well, be easy, and get some rest. Take care.